Our selection for today will be Whom Shall I Fear?
My The oracles of the UCI. The oracles of the UCI. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things, have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. We're going to, as we know, we're just a couple of days away from the heathens' biggest festival, and there's a reason why I use that word festival. We kind of merge those things from holidays and try to make those equivalent with holy days, and they're completely and utterly different. But there's some things that we need to understand about it. When we deal with just these trees, a lot of times we don't go, we go by a few things and we go over into a few things, but sometimes it's needed to go a little bit more in depth so you can have a little bit more understanding of it. The truth of the matter is, I didn't truly understand the things of Christmas until I came out of Christianity. You're just supposed to follow and just, and what's interesting is it's a lot of emotion, and you'll fight people for things that you really don't even understand. And so the whole time I was in it, just like everybody else, I didn't understand any of the things of it. And you're going to see just how deep this was of an issue with the children of Israel, because these things go way back before the Mashiach was on the earth. We're talking about even as far, we're talking about before Israel was set as a nation, that these things were a problem unto us. So I don't think, we consider it in that light, that this is something that Yahweh has great indignation against. But because after a while, a new name is given unto us, a new way of doing things, and then we don't think that it is just that old and that it is something that Yahweh would be that angry with, especially when we hear the terms that something has been conquered for Christ. Now we believe that it's okay to do it because we did it in his name. But remember what was written. It's going to be all these people that say, didn't we do all these great works in your name? Consider how Christmas is observed. They say that they conquered it for Christ. So this is then something that they say they're doing in his name. So we have to put that in there and in the scenario when we consider that he's going to say to all of these people that we have done all of these things in your name. Consider on this day, you have people going out to feed the hungry. They go out to do all of these things, and they believe that these are good deeds. So they're doing good deeds in the name of paganism and believe that it should be accounted unto them for righteousness. But you don't do evil that good may abound. That's not how that works. So let's begin on today's sermon in Genesis chapter 2. And we're going to read verses 7 through 9 to start with. And today's sermon is entitled, The Trees of Righteousness. And when you get down to it, this tree has caused a lot of problems with our people. When we first come out of this lie and get into the truth, one of the biggest fights we have to have in our house is getting rid of that tree. Go ahead, brother. Genesis chapter 2, and let's start that at verse 7.
And Yahweh Elohim formed man out of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahweh Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
So from the beginning, then, there is already a certain kind of power that is attributed to certain trees. So if we don't put this part in the scenario, we don't really understand the full worship of Christmas and the tree and how it plays in. Because you have some people that say, well, look, it's just a tree. It really doesn't mean anything. But from the beginning, we have trees, one to give knowledge, another that gives the ability to live forever. And this is the beginning of the story. Jump to verse 15.
And Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it.
All right. So keep reading right there.
And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. For in the day that you eat of, therefore you shall surely die.
Now, you have to wonder, he says, every tree of the garden you may freely eat. The tree of life was in that garden. He didn't tell him about it and didn't tell him that he couldn't eat from it. But once he ate from the tree of knowledge first, he was then forbidden to eat from the tree of life. See, man was never supposed to die anyway. So why would that tree be forbidden from him? But knowledge has to happen in levels. And that's something that we don't understand. That's why you have brand new babies in the word jump on the internet and get themselves killed. That's why you got brand new babies just got in the word and they teaching people. You about to get yourself into some trouble. You might want to sit down. See, knowledge given out of order can get you killed. Go ahead.
Continue.
Yep.
And Yahweh Elohim said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I'll make him an helpmeet for him.
All right, now let's jump to Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3, and we're going to read verses 22 through 24.
And Yahweh Elohim said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever.
So now, he would be able to live forever, but then he would have this knowledge of all of these things beforehand. Now, we have to consider there's certain things that are written in the book that it says, look, don't write this down yet. Seal that up. So when are we supposed to get that knowledge? Yahshua would already be back and set up a righteous kingdom before we're supposed to get that knowledge. See, it's certain things that we don't consider, how when you go out of order, how many problems it could actually cause. Go ahead.
Therefore Yahweh Elohim sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life.
So now the adversary is aware of everything, and even the ultimate plan that man has no idea about, how Yahweh is going to do those things. He is aware of what the plan is for man, and he wants to destroy man. Now, from the beginning, he sees that there's something going on with these trees, and man was then kicked out of that garden. Let's go to Revelation chapter 22. See, one thing we have to understand about the adversary, he is a wonderful duplicator. He is so good at impersonations. He'll go first and make you think that his is the real one. Revelation chapter 22, and let's read verses 1 through 5.
And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Elohim and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations.
So once again, even at the end of righteousness, we then find that there is a mystical power in the part of this tree. So when people tell you they're not worshiping the tree, you got to back up for a minute. Hold on. This is some very old understanding about dealing with the power of this tree. How many times you've gone into the living room where the tree was and just found people sitting there staring at it? And if you didn't find nobody staring at it, that's because it was you. Right. Read, bro.
You know what got me the other day driving through my neighborhood? What catches us all, like you're just talking about, why are you staring at the tree? Illumination. Lucifer is what? The illuminated one.
Oh, and we love to, put those lights up. Man, it's some people right on the way here that they lights up year round. They don't even take the lights down. I said, man, they not going to take the all year round. They were ready when Christmas came this year. Because they never went anywhere. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of Elohim and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him, and they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun, for the Adonai Elohim gives them light, and they shall reign forever and ever.
All right, so then we see from the beginning to the end, there is power in these trees. So now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy 16, and let's read verses 20 through 22.
Verse 20. That which is altogether just shall you follow, that you may live and inherit the land which Yahweh your Elohim gives you. You shall not plant you a grove of any trees near unto the altar of Yahweh your Elohim, which you shall make you.
Right. So now we got some issues about this grove near the altar of Yahweh. Now, this is the beginning of the children of Israel receiving this information. So why is he pinpoint already against these trees being near his altar? Because this part of this worship goes way back before we were even set up as a nation. These are warnings before we even came to be. Keep reading.
Neither shall you set you up any image which Yahweh your Elohim has.
Hateth.
Hateth, pardon me.
All right. Look at go to Judges chapter 6, but I want to read something right quick while you're doing that. This is Genesis chapter 21 and verse 33. And it says, and Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba and called there on the name of Yahweh. Now consider, Abraham whole folks are pagans. His father was a pagan. His nephew, pagans. All of them pagans. Yahweh is grabbing him out of a pagan household. But you know what he still got? Them pagan things in there. And Yahweh didn't even deal with him. He planted a grove and still likened it unto Yahweh. See, this is how we have to consider those old things and how they'll jump in with the new and try to mingle themselves in. But Yahweh hadn't given him instructions yet. He knew what he was about. Matter of fact, you got to a point that Yahweh wouldn't deal with him until his daddy died. Once his daddy died, all right, now go with him. All right, now separate you from your nephew. Okay, now, let me tell you about my covenant again. And why you keep talking to me every time they leave? Right, good. Maybe you'll figure it out. I ain't talking to you until they leave. Right. Consider that. So we talk about this grove. Now let's read Judges chapter 6. So you understand that Yahweh is consistent with his dislike of the groves, which is these Christmas trees that we call Christmas trees. Okay? So Judges chapter 6, and let's read verses 11 through 32.
And there came an angel of Yahweh and sat under an oak which was in Ophrah, that pertained unto Joash the Abiezrite. And his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of Yahweh appeared unto him and said unto him, Yahweh is with you, you mighty one of valor. And Gideon said unto him, O my Adonai, if Yahweh be with us, why then is all this befallen us? And where be all his miracles which our fathers told us of, saying, did not Yahweh bring us up from Egypt? But now Yahweh has forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites.
Right. A lot of times what we see is our current situation and not how we got there. A lot of times people are arguing about, oh, woe is me. I can't believe this is happening to me. I can't believe that is happening. Oh, these people not doing. Yeah, how you get that up? See, there's a part where we were given instructions on how we were supposed to walk. We didn't do it. And every time we didn't, we ended up in captivity. Now, he's asking, where are all these good things that we heard about Yahweh? I don't see none of them. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And Yahweh looked upon him and said, go in this your might, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have not I sent you? And he said unto him, O my Adonai, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And Yahweh said unto him, surely I will be with you, and you shall smite the Midianites as one man. And he said unto him, if now I have found grace in your sight, then show me a sign that you talketh with me. Depart not hence, I pray you, until I come unto you, and bring forth my present, and set it before you. And he said, I'll tarry until you come again. And Gideon went in, and made ready a kid and unleavened cakes of an ephah of flour. The flesh he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot, and brought it out unto him under the oak, and presented it.
Right. He's presenting this to the angel. And I want y'all to pay attention here. Go ahead.
And the angel of Elohim said unto him, Take the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and lay them upon this rock, and pour out the broth. And he did so.
Why did he tell him to pour out the broth? Got blood in it. But see, this is also part of the thing where you talk about why we don't just throw people in the cooking team and things like that. There's some things that you need to understand before you jump in there. There's some things that you need to understand before you take on certain jobs. That how you did that in the world and how you have to do that for Yahweh ain't the same. Go ahead.
Then the angel of Yahweh put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and there rose up fire out of the rock, and consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes. Then the angel of Yahweh departed out of his sight.
Right. The part of the offering that belongs unto Yahweh is completely burned up. So when you talk about the angel consuming the offering, that's why it was fire that came and burnt it up. Hold on, bro. Go ahead.
Verse 22. And when Gideon perceived that he was an angel of Yahweh, Gideon said, Alas, O Adonai, for because I have seen an angel of Yahweh face to face. And Yahweh said unto him, Peace be unto you, fear not, you shall not die. Then Gideon built an altar there unto Yahweh, and called it Yahweh Shalom. Unto this day it is yet in Ophrah, of the Abiezrites. And it came to pass the same night that Yahweh said unto him, Take your father's young bullock, even the second bullock of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that your father has, and cut down the grove that is by it.
Right. Not only throw down the altar of Baal that your father has, and cut down the grove that is near it. So you start to see that these things go hand in hand. See, we think it's just some stuff that we encounter. No. These things go together. So he didn't just say go over there and knock down the altar. Go down, knock down the altar, and make sure you knock down that tree that's over there by it too. Because see, they worshiping that tree too. Knock it down. But people will swear to you, I ain't worshiping the tree. We just got the tree in here, because that's how we hold the lights up. All right, you keep believing it. Go ahead.
And build an altar unto Yahweh your Elohim upon the top of this rock in the ordered place. And take the second bullock, and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove which you shall cut down. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants, and did as Yahweh had said unto him.
Now check this out. Use the wood from the grove to set the fire. So I want you to set their God on fire. All right. Go ahead.
And so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, that he did it by night.
Now consider what Yahweh asked you, to do. Because see, some of y'all, got a problem when your parents ask you to come over and, and partake in the thing. These people have been told to go and do this to their father God. Right. Consider that. But see, we want to go over there and half worship.
Well, I ain't gonna say nothing because it might upset my mama. It might make my dad upset. So we're not gonna say nothing. We just gonna eat the food, baby, and we're gonna go home.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Go ahead.
And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down that was by it. And the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. And they said one to another, Who has done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, has done this thing. Then the men of the city said unto Joash, Bring out your son, that he may die, because he has cast down the altar of Baal, and because he has cut down the grove that was by it.
They wasn't just mad about the altar, okay? They was upset about that tree. You cut down that tree?
Your son gonna die. He gonna die today.
Go ahead.
And Joash said unto all that stood against him, Will you plead for Baal? Will you save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death whilst it is yet morning. If he be a god, let him plead for himself, because one has cut down his altar. Therefore, on that day he called him Jerubbaal, saying, Let Baal plead against him, because he has thrown down his altar.
His name is Jerubbaal. So now, from this point on, you start talking about Gideon, and his name was Jerubbaal, and you trying to figure out how in the hell he got a name. He worship Yahweh. How you think Jerubbaal? You know, all it takes is one, incident in Israel to have a nickname that lasts for life. Okay? You soil your pants one time in Israel and you be Mr. PP forever. That's it. It be 50, 60 years old. They be like, yeah, you know Deacon PP. You know what I'm talking about? Man, the man 50 years old, y'all still calling him Deacon PP? That happened 35 years ago. That's Israel. Once it's stick, Jack, you done deal. So now this man is now known. And see, if you read that in other places, you will then think that this man worshiped paganism. No. He knocked down the altar and cut down the tree. Then they gave him this name. But if you're reading and you just happen to be somewhere else, you're going to get the wrong idea about why this man is called that. See, that's what getting knowledge in bits and pieces can get you killed. Go ahead. That was it.
32.
Read the definition there for Baal.
Baal from H1167. Baal from H1166, a master, hence a husband, or figuratively, owner, often used with another noun in modifications of this latter sense. Archer, babbler, bird, captain.
And these are all the possible ways that could be used. When you jump down, of course, you then see Lord, man, married, master, person. So when you deal with Baal, then we're dealing with Lord. And there's a reason why when this book was translated, everywhere they seen Yahweh, they put Lord. And they put it in 3 different connotations. You see all capital L-O-R-D, 1 capital L-O-R-D, and then all lowercase L-O-R-D. They were pushing this Lord title for a reason. Now let's read a little history of that. Go ahead and read that next note.
Nimrod married his own mother, Semiramis, who is also called the Queen of Heaven.
Right. So understand, there are parts when we get to reading in this book that you start talking and reading about the Queen of Heaven, but you haven't quite connected all of those yet. Go ahead.
After Nimrod's death, his so-called mother/wife propagated the doctrine that Nimrod became a spirit being. She claimed a full-grown evergreen tree sprang overnight from the dead tree stump, which symbolized the springing forth onto a new life of the dead Nimrod.
Right. So understand how early Nimrod was. We got to go back to the early part of Genesis to read the things of Nimrod and his setting up of Babel. All right. So understand how long these things have been into existence. Go ahead.
On the anniversary of his birth, she claimed Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts upon it.
What? So they keep telling you it's somebody's birthday. But then the people will tell you, well, we know Christ wasn't born in the winter.
But we conquered it for him.
But we know he couldn't have been born during that time because he was born outside. Go ahead.
December 25th was the birthday of Nimrod.
Right. So they celebrating somebody's birthday. It's just not Christ. See, but our people just do stuff. See, we do the stuff that was handed down to us, and we don't ask any questions. We'll ask more questions if we go in to buy a used car.
How fast can it go to 0 to 60? What about the stopping? Who had this before? You got the oil change records on this?
We'll ask more questions in a used car than we'll ask about our own salvation.
Okay, so we put the red balls and the blue balls on the tree. All right, then. What else? Let's do it then.
We has nothing. Go ahead, bro.
The Yule log was burnt on Christmas Eve, which represented Nimrod as a sun god. The Christmas tree represented Nimrod, resurrected as his own son, Tammuz.
Now, you got to get just how twisted it is. Because understand, Lucifer knows what Yahweh has to do. He knows that Israel has to come and make atonement for this creation. So then you have Yahweh as the father, as the husband of Israel, and then he's going to bring forth his son. Lucifer starting early. He said, look, I already know what you got to do. So I'm finna present Nimrod as the father, the son, and the husband. Go ahead.
He was called Baal, which means Lord. In Babylonia, he was known as Tammuz. In Syria and Greece, Adonis. In Egypt, as the sun god Osiris.
So this is one of the things that you find all of the sun god worship and all of these things linked together, which goes back to worshiping the host of heaven. Now let's go to Jeremiah 10. Because we will look at Jeremiah 10, and sometimes we go straight to it, but without understanding who some of these individuals are, a bit of that is still not apparent right away. So you gotta understand how deep this problem was. So Yahweh is just not throwing some stuff out there. You know, keep these groves away from my altar. First thing Abraham did, because that paganism was in there. Jeremiah 10, and let's read verses 1 through 5.
Hear you the word which Yahweh speaks unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cuts a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman, with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not.
Right. We put that tinsel all around the tree, them silver and gold little garlands and whatnot. Our living room used to be covered with all of this stuff. The problem is Christ ain't here. So how can we get a complete picture of a decorated Christmas tree, but it ain't no Christ? How you decorate the tree before he born and then say it's about him? Go ahead.
They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good.
Now, why would he say that? There's a part where you look at this and you're like, okay, why is he like, okay, the tree not alive? Wait a minute. When you consider that the tree is supposed to be the reborn Nimrod, wait a minute. No. Yahweh is saying certain things for a reason, because he know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Let's go to back up to Jeremiah chapter 7, and let's read verses 1 through 20. See, there's a reason why that's there. See, there's a reason why when you deal with Moshe being the one to bring the children of Israel out, and they had spent all of this time in Egypt, there's a reason why he made him go and live in Pharaoh's house. He learned all the paganism. He knew all the meaning of the paganism. He had to take part in that paganism. He was in their house. Then he separated him from the paganism. Then brought him back. So when Israel got ready to do something, he like, I know exactly what you're about to do. You're about to take that and put it with that so you can do this over here. You need to stop before you get yourself killed. He knew all the paganism. So Yahweh put him in that scenario for a reason. Israel couldn't pull nothing over Moshe's eyes if they wanted to. And he didn't need the Holy Spirit for that. Like the Spirit told me what y'all was doing. No. Moshe knew more about the paganism than they did. They knew the slave version of the paganism. That's always a lower version. Like, how many of y'all knew anything about the Yule log? We always heard about the Yule log, but none of us knew what it was. But you go in other folk house, and they got Yule logs, they got all these things. And you're like, what the hell are y'all doing? Y'all worshiping a whole nother Christmas. We ain't know nothing about that. And we were keeping Christmas, and we didn't know about that. Right. The slave version is always the lesser version. Go ahead.
Jeremiah chapter 7 and verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, Stand in the gate of Yahweh's house, and proclaim there this word, and say, Hear the word of Yahweh, all you of Yehudah, that enter in at these gates to worship Yahweh. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, the El of Israel, Amend your ways and your doings, and I'll cause you to dwell in this place. Trust you not in lying words, saying, The temple of Yah, the temple of Yah, the temple of Yah are these. For if you thoroughly amend your ways and your doings, if you thoroughly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor, if you oppress not the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, and shed not innocent blood in this place, neither walk after other gods to your hurt, then will I cause you to dwell in this place, in the land that I gave to your fathers forever and ever. Behold, you trust in lying words that cannot profit. Will you steal, murder, and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other gods whom you know not?
And we have to consider just how strongly Yahweh felt against burning incense unto other gods. See, the incense has a purpose in Israel and has a purpose as far as us and our connection to Yahweh. And then when we turn around and do that to other gods and for other reasons, it causes a moment of jealousy between us and our Elohim. Go ahead.
And come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, We're delivered to do all these abominations? Is this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, says Yahweh. But go you now on to my place which was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it for the wickedness of my people Israel. And now, because you have done all these works, says Yahweh, and I spake unto you, rising up early and speaking, but you heard not, and I called you, but you answered not.
Right. And he did that through the work of his prophets. He didn't go to them personally. He sent servants to go and warn them. Don't do this. Stop doing that. And like, man, get out of here, man. We don't want to hear that. Go ahead.
Therefore will I do unto this house, which is called by my name, wherein you trust, and unto the place which I gave to you and to your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh. And I'll cast you out of my sight, as I've cast out all your brethren, even the whole seed of Ephraim. Therefore pray not you for this people, neither lift up cry nor prayer for them, neither make intercession to me, for I will not hear you. See you not what they do in the cities of Yehudah and in the streets of Jerusalem? The children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the Queen of Heaven.
All right. The Queen of Heaven is Semiramis, who is also called Ishtar. This is the mother here. So understand what's going on. Go ahead.
And to pour out drink offerings onto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Do they provoke me to anger? Says Yahweh. Do they not provoke themselves to the confusion of their own faces? Therefore thus said the Adonai Yah, Behold, mine anger and my fury shall be poured out upon this place, upon man and upon beast and upon the trees of the field and upon the fruit of the ground, and it shall burn and shall not be quenched.
All right. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 8. See, this tree worship goes way back before Israel was a nation. So it's a reason why people have so many problems when they get in this word and they start talking about removing that tree. And boy, that Tasmanian devil come out. What? Oh, yeah. See, that's a fight I know well. I done had that fight.
That was sentimental to me.
Right. Lucifer is so sentimental. Ezekiel chapter 8, let's read verses 1 through 16. Yeah, he have us fighting about stuff that has absolutely no value whatsoever. None whatsoever. And you swear it means something. Go ahead, brother.
And it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 6th day of the month, as I sat in mine house, and the elders of Yehuda sat before me, that the hand of the Adonai Elohim fell there upon me. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire, from the appearance of his loins even downward, fire, and from his loins even upward, as the appearance of brightness, as the color of amber. And he put forth the form of an hand, and took me by a lock of mine head. And the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven, and brought me into the visions of Elohim to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looks toward the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provokes to jealousy. And behold, the glory of the Elohim of Israel was there, according to the vision that I saw in the plain.
Right. So this image is provoking Yahweh unto jealousy. Go ahead.
Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up your eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted up mine eyes the way toward the north. And behold, northward at the gate of the altar this image of jealousy in the entry. He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, seeth you what they do, even the great abominations that the house of Israel commits here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary? But turn you yet again, and you shall see greater abominations. And he brought me to the door of the court. And when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Then said he unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I had digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in, and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beast, and all the idols of the house of Israel, portrayed upon the wall round about.
All right, stop. We don't deal with images. So when you go in the house of Yahweh and all of a sudden you got pictures of everything, when my elder passed and all of a sudden a family portrait showed up at the front door, I know we was in some paganism. It was people on the picture. I didn't even know who they was. I've been going there 6-7 years. I like, who the hell is that guy? It was like, oh, well, that's the other son of the new leader. Oh, yeah? And how they get at the front door? That's that worship image. Let's put these images all around so you'll know who to look up to. You got posters all over the place. You got images. You got organizations that make a so-called image of Christ, which is already a problem. But then they insert the picture of their leader inside the face so that you will worship him even without knowing that you're worshiping him. There's something seriously wrong with that. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them stood Yazaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. Then said he unto me, Son of man, have you seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark, every man in the chambers of his imagery? For they say, Yahweh sees us not. Yahweh has forsaken the earth. He said also unto me, Turn you yet again, and you shall see greater abominations that they do. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of Yahweh's house, which was toward the north. And, behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz.
Now, there's a little bit more that we have to go into to understand this weeping for Tammuz, because at this point, this is something that's done to deal with this pagan god. And it's been put into things that we do today, and a lot of people have no idea that they're where those things come from that we end up taking part in. Go ahead.
Then said he unto me, Have you seen this, O son of man? Turn you yet again, and you shall see greater abominations than these.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought me into the inner court of Yahweh's house, and, behold, at the door of the temple of Yah, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs toward the temple of Yah, and their faces toward the east, and they worshiped the sun toward the east.
Okay, stop. Tammuz is what? He was worshipped as a sun god. Okay, these things are not separated. These things are connected. See, when you deal with this whole December 25th, we're talking about the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. These are sun symbols. These are sun signs that are being worshipped. But Jeremiah 10 ain't the only place that we can go to deal with that. Go ahead, brother, read that note.
While 40-day periods are common in Scripture, search the Scriptures diligently from the Old Testament to the New, and you will find no mention of Israelites or so-called Christians observing an annual period of 40 days abstinence from certain foods and vices preceding the Feast of Passover.
So, this period of weeping for Tammuz was this period that has now transferred into certain other things. Go ahead.
Yet most of the Christians, Catholic world observes a 40-day period called Lent, which immediately follows the festival of Fat Tuesday, called Mardi Gras, or the festival of Lupercalia.
Now, understand this right here, this part of the writing, we took directly from one of the writings that's out front, the 40 Days of Lent. Leah wrote this in 2001. Go ahead.
And precedes the festival of Easter Sunday. The celebration of Lent developed from the pagan celebration of Babylon's queen Semiramis, mourning for 40 days over the death of Tammuz.
Mm-hmm.
Ezekiel chapter 8 and verse 14. Before his alleged resurrection, another of Satan's mythical counterfeits.
Keep going.
The word festival means flesh rising.
Mm-hmm.
At the lewd acts of Mardi Gras, or Fat Tuesday is as a testament to the flesh rising. Ash Wednesday was established as the first day of Lent by Pope St. Gregory the Great between 590 and 605 AD. Mardi Gras balls begin immediately following Christmas and is a time of gross debauchery when people get in all their sinning in preparation of fasting for Lent. Hence the name, Fat Tuesday.
Right. So you'll see a lot of Christian things where we're going on this 40-day this and we're going to go on a 40-day that. Right. They sticking their paganism in the back of our head and we don't even know how it got there. We don't even know how these things, where this come from. Right. Paganism. Go ahead.
It began when Queen Ishtar's son, Tammuz, was killed by a wild boar. Queen Ishtar, Semiramis, told the people that Tammuz was now ascended to his father, Baal, also known as Nimrod.
So, go ahead.
And that the two of them would be with the worshippers in the sacred candle or lamp flame as Father, Son, and Spirit.
Right. So he the father, he the husband, and he the son. There's some nasty stuff going on right up in here. It's some strange things. But see, that's what happened with a counterfeit. You got to mix a lot of things in when you're going to deal with this counterfeit stuff. So when Yahweh said in the beginning how he had a problem with it, understand how deep this goes and how we would look at the other nations and how Lucifer is already mimicking. Understand, from the beginning, he's saying, look, you ain't going to surely die. Go ahead and get this knowledge. Go ahead.
The queen told the worshippers that when Tammuz was killed by the wild pig, some of his blood fell on the stump of an evergreen tree, and the stump grew into a full new tree overnight.
Now, in every last one of your little festivals, you're going to find a pig. And we just think the pig just happened to be there. Look, the pig just happened to be here. What a coincidence. Right. So you ain't gonna see the tree without the pig. Interesting. And people will fight you. They got to have both. Got to have both. And you can talk to them all you want.
Well, look, baby, I know you don't like the pig, but I made some other stuff for you. Come on.
Why you got to have it? You don't even eat the pig, mama.
The pig got to be here, baby.
Now I understand. The pig got to be there, baby. Right. See? Did the pig blood got a part in his resurrection? Go ahead.
This made the evergreen tree sacred by the blood of Tammuz.
Uh-huh.
She also proclaimed a 40-day period of time of sorrow each year prior to the anniversary of the death of Tammuz.
Mm-hmm.
During this time, no meat was to be eaten.
Now, see how we start getting on these 40-day fast of certain things. Now, this is how that Christian dogma starts getting thrown in the back of our head. Look, Abraham was a faithful servant of Yahweh. Yet he went and did some paganism right immediately. Why? Because it was stuck there. But Yahweh didn't hold it accountable unto him. Because he knows, all right, as I start to instruct him, he's going to instruct his family. All right? So I ain't going to hold it against him, but I'm going to get that out of him through a period of time. Same thing got to happen with us. Everything ain't going to come out right away. But it need to be some work going on so that over a period of time, this paganism is starting to get pulled out of us. Because there's paganism there that you don't even know there. You just do it automatically. No thought whatsoever. It just go in the gear on its own. Go ahead.
Worshippers were to meditate upon the sacred mysteries of Baal and Tammuz, and to make the sign of the cross in front of their hearts as they worship.
Right. Brother scored a touchdown. Pookie has no idea what that means. He has no idea. Go ahead.
They also ate sacred cakes with the marking of a cross on the top of it, hot cross buns. Thus, by mid-4th century, the duration of Lent...
Y'all, I ain't gonna even touch your hot cross buns, bro. I'm not even gonna go there, brother. I'm not. Y'all trying to get me in trouble. I'm not touching hot cross buns. Read, man.
Thus, by mid-4th century, the duration of Lent, the word itself means lengthening spring days, from the Indo-European langatin, meaning long day, became more or less fixed at 40 days, less Sundays.
And check that out. See, that's like that fake Enoch calendar where you got days, but they not days.
So we're going to fast, oh, but not on Sunday. Okay, we're going to fast, not on Sunday.
Right. So that's like that fake Enoch calendar. We got a day, but then, oh, this day is not a day. So what the hell you doing a day that's not a day? Right. Twisted paganism, man. Go ahead, brother. You finish that?
However, the time frame did not become official, though, until the 8th century.
All right, let's go to Numbers chapter 9. So that we understand how this tree and why those where the gifts come from. Because we should ask ourselves, where the gifts come from under the tree. So Nimrod said, so he's coming and putting the gifts under the tree. And everybody got to go and bow down up under this tree to go and get these gifts. These are things that we have participated in and not knowing that we were participating in paganism. And all this stuff in your book. All of these things are connected to this paganism. But you know what's interesting is our people have no idea. The masses, they know these things. I've gone and been in people's houses and said, well, what's that right there? And they can give me the full rundown of what it is. I was like, wow. So they know they worship the devil. Mm-hmm. And you go to a black person house, they had the same thing. Hey, bro, what's that right there?
Oh,
You don't know what the hell is on your wall, do you? You don't have a clue. But you ask other people, they know exactly what it is and why it's there. We have no idea why we're doing this stuff. So most of the people who are partaking in this stuff, they don't have a clue about what it is they're doing. Go and mention to somebody Nimrod. And watch that stupid look.
Who the hell is that?
Well, I see you got his tree up in your living room.
No, the hell I don't. I don't have no Nimrod. That's a Christmas tree. I don't know who the hell Nimrod is.
Right. Sure you don't. Numbers chapter 9, and let's start at verse 15.
You go in there, they think you call them stupid. That's
Yeah.
what we know Nimrod to be.
Right, and that's what anybody say when it's something they don't like. Shut up, Nimrod. You know. Well, you got his tree in your living room. So how you gonna have a problem with Nimrod if you got a tree in your living room? Go ahead, brother. Numbers chapter 9 and verse 15.
And on the day that the tabernacle was reared up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, namely the tent of the testimony. And at even there was upon the tabernacle as it were the appearance of fire until the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always. The cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night.
Right. It should have been very difficult to not follow the Spirit if you got a cloud and a fire that moves and you're supposed to move with it. It should be very, very difficult to miss the movement of the Spirit. You see the cloud, you see the fire. What is the problem? Go ahead.
And when the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, then after that the children of Israel journeyed. And in the place where the cloud abode, there the children of Israel pitched their tents. At the commandment of Yah, the children of Israel journeyed, and at the commandment of Yah, they pitched. As long as the cloud abode upon the tabernacle, they rested in their tents.
Mm-hmm.
And when the cloud tarried long upon the tabernacle many days, then the children of Israel kept the charge of Yahweh and journeyed not. And so it was, when the cloud was a few days upon the tabernacle, according to the commandment of Yah, they abode in their tents, and according to the commandment of Yah, they journeyed. And so it was, when the cloud abode from even unto the morning, and that the cloud was taken up in the morning, then they journeyed. Whether it was by day or by night that the cloud was taken up, they journeyed. Or whether it were 2 days, or a month, or a year, that the cloud tarried upon the tabernacle, remaining thereon, the children of Israel abode in their tents, and journeyed not. But when it was taken up, they journeyed. At the commandment of Yah, they rested in the tents, and at the commandment of Yah, they journeyed. They kept the charge of Yah, at the commandment of Yah, by the hand of Moshe.
So then we see then this fire and this cloud was something that was very important. It was something that the children of Israel was receiving their instructions from. So then we have to understand there was one part that we kept reading in there that Yahweh was upset with, and that was the burning of incense unto these other gods. And when you consider the fire and the cloud and the things that you have to do to burn the incense, you got to light it with fire, and the incense bring forth the cloud. So you got to deal with those things and what that means when we got off into that. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 16. Leviticus 16, and we're going to read verses 6 through 13. See, in a lot of these pictures and things that you look at, you'll see the Catholic priests doing all of the things that are detailed in this book. Out of all of the, consider, Christians are people who broke away from Catholicism. But then consider the dress of the Catholic priest. Look at them walking around with the censers burning the incense. Understand, that was the teaching that the Christians had originally. Then they broke away from it. You can even go back a little while and see all of the Christian pastors had on robes just like the choir. But then you couldn't see the fine Italian suit. So that robe had to come off. But there was some order to that in the beginning. Leviticus chapter 16, and let's read verses 6 through 13.
And Aaron shall offer his bullock of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make an atonement for himself and for his house. And he shall take the 2 goats and present them before Yah at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron shall cast lots upon the 2 goats, 1 lot for Yahweh, and the other lot for the scapegoat. And Aaron shall bring the goat upon which Yahweh's lot fell, and offer him for a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell to be the scapegoat shall be presented alive before Yahweh, to make an atonement with him, and to let him go for a scapegoat into the wilderness. And Aaron shall bring the bullock of the sin offering, which is for himself, and shall make an atonement for himself and for his house, and shall kill the bullock of the sin offering, which is for himself. And he shall take a censer full of burning coals of fire from off the altar before Yahweh, and his hands full of sweet incense beaten small, and bring it within the veil. And he shall put the incense upon the fire before Yahweh, that the cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat that is upon the testimony, that he die not.
So these things are not just happening just because they think it's something cool to do. There is a connection to why these things are happening. Go ahead. So you finish that. Let's go to Numbers chapter 16.
Verse 44.
Say again.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Numbers chapter 16. And let's read verses 44 through 50.
Verse 44. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Get you up from among this congregation, that I may consume them as in a moment. And they fell upon their faces. And Moshe said unto Aaron, Take a censer, and put fire therein from off the altar, and put on incense, and go quickly unto the congregation.
Take this incense and go quickly. Now, these are things that we have been known to do for other gods. Go ahead.
And make an atonement for them, for there's wrath gone out from Yahweh, the plague is begun. And Aaron took as Moshe commanded, and ran into the midst of the congregation. And, behold, the plague was begun among the people. And he put on incense and made an atonement for the people.
Right. So then we have to consider then this particular thing, how important Yahweh has held this incense and what this means. But we have openly allowed ourselves to deal with other gods with these things. And every time you run into somebody who call themselves spiritual, or they doing with certain things, all of a sudden you find some incense and some candles all over the place. All them little, they getting ready to worship whatever they doing, they Buddha and all that stuff. Hum day, rum day, moon. Now they got some stuff lit up all over. Candles and incense. You don't know if it's going to be a seance or what's going to happen up in here. Right. Yahweh said those things were supposed to be sacred between him and you. But you took them and did them with everybody. Go ahead.
And he stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stayed. Now they that died in the plague were 14,700, beside them that died about the matter of Korah. And Aaron returned unto Moshe unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the plague was stayed.
You know, that's what's really going to get our attention. You know, you can keep talking about this word, and you can start doing all of these things, but when we sit and we see about 10,000 people die at one time, then it's going to get Israel attention. See, Yahweh, just like he said before, I've been talking to you. I've been talking to you by sending my prophets. You know, you didn't send no prophets. All I saw was sock. Okay. We think Yahweh going to come personally to our house and knock on the door.
Look, if I was you, I wouldn't do that.
No. He got a servant that said, if I was you, I wouldn't do that. So then when it comes time for judgment, you can't get there and say, well, I didn't know Yahweh. Yes, you did. No, you made a decision. And I've been giving you leeway and grace, but you don't understand grace because you ain't got in that full trouble yet. You ain't seen no death happen right next to you. But when people start falling and dying at our feet, that's when people going to decide, oh, it's time to get serious. If you're just not getting serious now, too late. It's one thing seeing somebody die. It's something altogether different seeing 5,000, 10,000 people die at the same time. Yahweh said 2/3 of Israel going to get cut off and die. So all the people walking around talking about we Israel through natural blood, congratulations. You qualified to be a part of that 2/3. See, if he actually does bring all of Israel, we're going to swear we did it ourselves anyway.
We were so
Angels which stood before Elohim, and to them were given 7 trumpets. When you deal with the things that we read in Judges with these priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns, there were the things, the blowing of those trumpets brought forth judgment. Now we get to the end of the book, and we talking about these trumpets to bring forth judgment. But you got people out there saying, well, it don't matter what kind of horn you use. You can use the kadu. But he was specific when he told them priests what kind of horns is supposed to be around that altar. And then there are priests blowing it. But once again, when you take hold of the Christian doctrine, a whole lot don't really matter. You get here and Yahweh is very specific. Make sure that you build the tabernacle according to all the things that were shown you in the mount. Yet we can go in the 9 out of 10 churches and they're all built the same, and it's not like any of the instructions in this book. So where did they get their building plan from? Who gave them the building plan? Because all of them got the same building plan, but we can't find it in the book. So who gave them the building plan? That's a very interesting question. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before Elohim out of the angel's hand.
Now, and the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints. So then we have to consider how powerful this incense is, that it brings forth the prayers of the saints. But we'll turn around and burn incense to some kind of earthly wickedness. See, once we get accustomed to things, we don't really consider just how evil that thing is. So Israel have gotten accustomed to doing this because we're watching all the nations doing the same thing. So we think, hey, it's not a bad thing. Go ahead.
And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire off the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake.
Read verse 6.
And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound.
Right. So now they are about to bring forth this righteous judgment. So it matters how those things are done. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 44.
Eight 22.
Jeremiah chapter 44. And let's start with verses 1 through 7.
Jeremiah chapter 44 and verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the Yehudis which dwell in the land of Egypt, which dwell at Migdal, and at Taphanes, and at Naph, and in the country of Pathros, saying, Thus said the Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, You have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem and upon all the cities of Yehuda. And behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwells therein. Because of their wickedness, which they have committed to provoke me to anger, in that they went to burn incense and to serve other gods whom they knew not, neither they, you, nor your fathers.
Right. And today, our people are preparing to worship something that they don't even understand. Gods that they don't know anything about. They know nothing about Nimrod, Tammuz, Semiramis. They don't know anything about that. But we spending all our money to do it. Some people start buying stuff in June, stacking it up in the closet.
I'm gonna be ready when Christmas come around this year. I ain't gonna be broke like I was last year. I'm gonna be ready.
Right. We start early to deal with that paganism. Go ahead.
You know, brother, the sad thing is we'll put ourselves in debt to deal with it. I was at a one of them fast cash places yesterday. So a lady came in and she paying on her debt that she already has and asked, "Oh, so how much more money do I qualify?" Lady told her and said, "But if you're trying to get money for these holidays, you need to be here tomorrow before 12." I said, "Boy, look at that. You paying off a debt."
Yeah. All right, which one of y'all got a phone talking from the thing there? Need to cancel that app. But you know what? When you talk about dealing with you know, those things, think about the weight that it puts on parents. That you looking out and it says Santa Claus brought us all these gifts. So now you got some folk who ain't got that much money, and then you got a kid.
Well, Mama, I was good. Why I ain't get nothing?
So now the parents feeling bad, you know, because they can't get their kid these gifts, and they seeing people on their street, right down the street, and they getting, you know, other gifts because they, you know, their parents been saving up, you know, they got some money. So then understand the confusion to the kid, and they like, wait a minute, Puka got a go-kart. He is the rottenest dude in this whole neighborhood. So if Santa Claus been watching you, Santa Claus is lying. Because that dude is horrible. He done fought 4 people on this street here. How he get all this stuff? Santa Claus got his addresses mixed up. Think about what this does to the children, okay? Because they know other rotten individuals. You don't think they understand which kids are rotten and which ones are not? And then they watch this rotten kid come up with all these new things, and he's still being rotten with his new stuff on his new bike. You ain't got near one of these. I guess you wasn't on his list. Go ahead, brother. You had something?
I was going to say, not only that, there was also a difference between Christmas on the white side of town and the black side of town,
What you mean?
as far as presents.
As far as presents? Of course it is. They talking about there's a difference between Christmas on the Gentile part of town and Christmas on our side of town. First of all, brother, when I grew up, I ain't had no chimney. So see, that was a whole nother lie that had to be told. You understand? That was a whole nother lie. See, everybody don't have chimneys. And that when they was making up this lie, of course, they didn't consider that everybody wasn't going to have a chimney. There ain't no chimneys in the hood. You understand? So a special lie had to be told at my house. See, I had to get a special lie.
Excuse me, Mama. Ain't no chimney in here. How he get in here? He can squeeze through the walls.
So he do the centipede and come up in here, huh? Right. See, I had to get a special lie. And think about all the people who live in the project. They got to get specialized. They don't have chimneys. And then we get mad when the kids start lying up.
You told me a lie.
Well, you've been lying to me for years. Right. And then we mad.
Where you learn how to lie like that? I learned it from you.
Right. Go ahead, bro.
Jeremiah chapter 44 and verse 4. Howbeit, I sent unto you all my servants the prophets, rising early and sending them, saying, Oh, do not these abominable things that I hate.
Right. But then they said something wrong with them servants. See?
I wouldn't listen to that sock Israel. He was speaking that negativity. God is not angry with you. Stop listening to him. This tree is fine. It's for Christ.
Right. So then all the people that come forth and speak the truth, now those people must be negative. But Yahweh say, I sent servants. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't like how they talk. I'm sorry that my servants offended you. Well, let's see how offensive the lake of fire is. Let's see if you get offended when you get thrown in there. Read, bro.
But they hearken not, nor incline their ear to turn from their wickedness, to burn no incense unto other gods. Wherefore my fury and mine anger was poured forth, and was kindled in the cities of Yehudah and in the streets of Jerusalem, and they are wasted and desolate, as at this day. Therefore now thus saith Yahweh, the El of the host of Elohim of Israel, wherefore commit you this great evil against your souls, to cut off from you man and woman, child and suckling, out of Yehudah, to leave you none to remain.
Right, because the whole family celebrate this paganism. So then the children got to get a part of their punishment as well. But they're kids. And the same lie that we told coming out of Egypt is the same lie we tell today.
Oh no, we do it for the kids.
That's that lie we told coming out of Egypt.
Well, it's about our kids, Yahweh. It's for our kids.
Y'all, okay, so that's the lie you gonna tell? I tell you what. I'm gonna say the kids and I'm gonna kill y'all. How about that? So we're gonna sit right here 40 years until every last one of y'all dead. And then I'm gonna bring them children. You know the ones y'all said I was gonna kill off? Them the ones that's gonna go. But all y'all gonna die. Tell me another lie. Go ahead.
In that you provoke me unto anger with the works of your hands, burning incense unto other gods in the land of Egypt, whether you be gone to dwell, that you might cut yourselves off, and that you might be a curse and a reproach among all the nations of the earth.
Jump to verse 15.
Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by,
all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, go ahead,
a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt, in Pathroth, answered Jeremiah, saying.
Now, understand, consider something. Listen to what it says. Even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt in Pathros. So, a lot of times people say, well, we don't have to do this because we weren't in our land. He dealing with people in Egypt. They're not in Israel. He's still holding them responsible for doing righteousness. So all these people just telling you, well, we outside of our land. We don't have to worry about that. We don't have to do righteousness. Wait a minute. Ain't that what got us kicked out? How you think you're going to get back in it by continuing to do unrighteousness? Go ahead.
It's interesting with this whole thing. My cousin called yesterday, said, oh, you ready for this pagan holiday? I said, man, I'm glad you know it's paganism. He's like, well, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And I said, I hope you burn in the lake right along with them Romans too.
I tell you, it is amazing how we do that. So you're going to call it paganism, but he already got his plate set. You know what I'm saying?
I am ready for this paganism, brother.
That's sinning with knowledge is extra sinful. See, it's one thing to sin and be uneducated about the things that we're doing. It's something altogether different to know exactly what it is and still do it. That's on a whole nother level. See, that's why we can't be involved in certain things. See? What if I just somebody just drive by and see me at a Christmas gathering? You understand what's going to happen in their head? Suck was just at the Christmas party. Mama, I'm on my way. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I just saw Suck at one. Right. Now, how many people gonna go join on to some paganism because they drove by and saw my car at the pagan festivities? Now, they don't know what I was in there for. My mama's living room could have caught on fire. Now, if you need help, I'm going to help you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to sit there and let, my mama's house burn down because it's Christmas. I'm going to go over there and help her put out the fire. But after that, I'm getting the hell on. All right, the fire out. All right. See you later. I'm out. But I'm not going to sit. I'm going to help wherever I can help. But there's a line where that help is. I might have to put some kids right on the window. We are only here to help. So when people drive by and see my car, they know I am not partying with these people. I'm just cruising through and the house was on fire. That's it. Go ahead.
Verse 16. As for the word that you have spoken unto us in the name of Yahweh, we will not hearken unto you. But we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes, in the cities of Yehudah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil.
Right. We did better when we worship paganism. So when you see these people riding around and they got the whole big picture of Mary in the back window, they worshiping the Queen of Heaven. They just gave them a different name to call her by. And some of them trees, some of the trees got a star on it. Some trees have a baby Jesus, or they might have the woman on it. Understand what's going on. And the crazy thing is, after today, you already understood more than they did. But it's going to be on a whole nother level that they're doing all of these things and they don't understand any of them. And that is so sad that we will put our whole existence, but understand what is being said. We had plenty of victuals. We had plenty of stuff to eat when we did all of these things. Consider how we got here. These things made the slave masters happy. If you are a slave and the slave master is partaking in all of these things, it makes him uneasy that you're not doing it. And he over you. So the slaves get to see, wait a minute, all of a sudden master ain't beating nobody. All of a sudden he ain't making nobody work extra hard. I'm starting to like this Christmas. I don't know what it is, but I know we ain't getting no beatings. Right. So now, that thing has been transferred to us. We see, man, we get to receive some extra stuff during this time. So we're going to worship it too, even though we didn't understand any of the stuff. And it's still that way today. Go ahead.
But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things and have been consumed by the sword and by the famine.
Right. Since we have left off to burn incense and to pour out drink offerings. So when you come around the New Year's and all of a sudden your ambrosia come out, ain't none of y'all had ambrosia the whole year. Now you got all these fruit and nuts mixed with alcohol. It don't come out until a certain time of the year. All of a sudden your eggnog don't come out until a certain time of the year. Hey man, chickens is hatching eggs every day. Every day, I promise you. So how is it eggnog don't show up until this time of the year? You got plenty of eggs. Where the nog come from? Right, but it don't show up until certain times. Drink offerings. That's why you got certain drinks associated with certain times of the year. I don't just drink coffee during certain, oh my goodness, it's December, it's time to drink me some coffee. Drink coffee every day. When you got drinks that don't show up to certain parts of the year, you need to ask yourself a question. Wait a minute. Why does this only show up during this time? Most people don't eat chitlins all year. You can smell the aroma of the funk right toward New Year's. You like, wait a minute. Somebody's cooking that funky stuff. It don't show up to a certain time of the year. Now, some people eat it all year, but very few. You go around houses toward New Year, and everybody got them stinking chitlins in their house. Why everybody all of a sudden want it during a certain time? Go ahead.
You know that sorrel you love so much?
Uh-huh.
That used to be the case with sorrel.
Really?
It was a Christmas drink.
I like that ginger boy. I like that ginger boy. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 19. And when we burnt incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings onto her, did we make her cakes to worship her and pour out drink offerings onto her without our men?
Right.
The women said, hold on now, hold on. Hold on. You saw Pookie was there too, right? Okay then, don't be coming to me. He the head of the house. Yeah, did we worship the devil? Yes, we did. But my husband was there. Read.
Then Jeremiah said unto all the people, to the men and to the women, and to all the people which had given him that answer, saying, the incense that you burnt in the cities of Yehuda and in the streets of Jerusalem, you and your fathers, your kings and your princes, and the people of the land, did not Yahweh remember them, and came it not into his mind? So that Yahweh could no longer bear, because of the evil of your doings, and because of the abominations which you have committed. Therefore is your land a desolation, and an astonishment, and a curse, without an inhabitant, as at this day. Because you have burnt incense, and because you have sinned against Yahweh, and have not obeyed the voice of Yahweh, nor walked in his law.
Because you have burned incense and because you have sinned against Yahweh. You have taken the things that were supposed to be sacred between me and you have given them unto other gods. Go ahead.
Nor in his statutes, nor in his testimonies. Therefore this evil has happened unto you, as at this day. Moreover, Jeremiah said unto all the people, and to all the women, hear the word of Yahweh, all Yehuda that are in the land of Egypt.
Right. And when you start talking about this thing of Christmas, you're going to have to deal with them women. You might talk to some brothers and they'll be like, yeah, man. Yeah, we're going to take this tree out the house. Go in the house.
You know what, brother? Maybe next year. I can't. No, man. There's a mad cat in there.
Right. I thought you told me you were running the house.
Well, now I'm running out of it. I don't know.
Right. You find you got to get up before you get with that mad cat, boy. You can't just run at a mad cat, boy. Right. Go ahead, man.
Thus said the Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, saying, you and your wives have both spoken with your mouths and fulfilled with your hand, saying, we will surely perform our vows that we have vowed, to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings onto her. You will surely accomplish your vows, and surely perform your vows. Therefore, hear you the word of Yahweh, all Yehuda that dwell in the land of Egypt. Behold, I have sworn by my great name, says Yahweh, that my name shall no more be named in the mouth of any of Yehuda in all the land of Egypt, saying, the Adonai Yahweh lives.
Right. So then when we get to that point where we had to relearn who Yahweh was, why are we surprised? He said, you have been so disobedient, I'm going to take my name out your mouth. That's why we walking around talking about Lord God. Right. So we don't consider, that is part of the curse, that he has taken his name out of their mouth.
Well, you got many names.
Right. He has taken his name out of their mouth, and they don't consider that that is part of the curse. And you know what's really how you know the depth of the curse is that they're sitting there in confusion and want to stay confused. That's the one thing about confusion. When you want to stay confused,
No, I'm comfortable right here. This is a very comfortable, confusing spot. I love it here.
Oh, right. That's a curse. And what happens is, bit by bit, as we keep going through the things in this book, layers of that curse begins to start coming off of us. It's not going to happen all at once. It's going to be a bit here, a bit there, a little bit over here, a little bit over there, but you just keep walking. And more of the layers of that curse starts falling off. We have so many layers of that curse laying on us. We got generation after generation of curses sitting upon us. We've been handed down evil generations, generational things that our whole family have done, completely evil. But we don't know that. They're just family tradition. Well, you have to get the power enough to allow Yahweh to shed those things and pull them off. To allow those layers to be shed so that he can give you some new righteous layers. But let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 12. And we're going to read verses 1 through 7. And it's a whole bunch of churches right now that is sitting up with a Christmas tree sitting right beside the altar. Right now. And the people are talking about how beautiful the tree is, how warm it make them feel.
I feel so warm.
Well, wait till you get in that lake of fire. You're going to feel really warm, man. You're going to feel so cozy. Oh, yeah, you like warmth? Just go with what you got. You warmth coming up. Deuteronomy chapter 12, and let's start at verse 1.
These are the statutes and judgments which you shall observe to do in the land, which Yahweh Elohim of your fathers give you to possess it, all the days that you live upon the earth. You shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which you shall possess serve their gods, and upon the high mountains, and upon the hills, and under every green tree.
I'm sorry, under every green tree. And they always it's got to be under, the gifts that were up under the tree, you couldn't open them until your parents got up. Now you can stay up till midnight and go in there and go and get everything. But the gifts that were wrapped up under the tree, you couldn't get those. They had to visibly watch you get on your knees, get under that tree, and everybody had to go one at a time to find the boxes that had their names on them. Yahweh said this ain't new paganism. They've been doing this paganism. Go ahead.
And you shall overthrow their altars, and break their pillars, and burn their groves with fire.
Right. So these groves ain't nothing new. Yahweh already had indignation with it before we were even set up as a nation. Go ahead.
And you shall hew down the graven images of their gods, and destroy the names of them out of that place. You shall not do so unto Yahweh your Elohim, but unto the place which Yahweh your Elohim shall choose out of all your tribes to put his name there, even unto his habitation shall you seek, and thither you shall come.
Right. So the place where Yahweh has chosen to place his name there, the place where we worship, we should have some kind of reverence for that place. Meaning that we're not going to let anything happen in that place. We're not going to let any old kind of thing go up in that place. Why do you think that it says the zeal of his father's house had eaten him up? Why do you think the Messiah went in there and turned over them tables? Man, y'all ain't gonna be having money changers up in here. Go ahead.
And thither you shall bring your burnt offerings, and your sacrifices, and your tithes, and heave offerings of your hand, and your vows, and your freewill offerings, and the firstlings of your herds, and of your flocks.
Right. We had somebody that told us, we're going to bring our tithes somewhere else, but we're going to keep our holy days with you. No, you need to be wherever your tithes at. And if you don't believe that this place is worthy of having your tithes, please go somewhere else. If you hurry up now, you can still make it before they leave. Go ahead.
And there you shall eat before Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall rejoice in all that you put your hand unto, you and your households, wherein Yahweh your Elohim has blessed you.
All right. That's all that we're going to do for today. Let us understand that this paganism is bigger than we could ever imagine. There is nothing that we're going to learn over the adversary, the devil. He started way before we were even conceived as a nation. So when it comes down to wickedness, he has a great head start. We will have to do much digging to try to figure out all the ways that he has tried to corrupt us. But if we just walk in what Yahweh gives us, he's going to make us and cause us to understand where we've gone wrong and how to fix it. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.